What up? Looks like
Hello.
we're live, yo.
Blah blah blah. Yo, hello.
Is there anyone still left after the boomerang?
Three people. Hi, three people.
They're not in the chat, but they're. Oh,
Watching.
well, technically two. I opened one up. Oh no, I'm not. I didn't touch it. Okay, so yeah, three. But yeah, no, I just checked. You're really not streaming against too many people at all. Like anyone, no one. Rakeda is like the only big one that's really on right now.
I
Could
can't
you-
believe I did it because, like, I guess because I opened the stream with like my phone or whatever. Like, I started with my phone, and then I hit cancel.
Oh, there's Wolverine. At least he's there.
Hey, Wolverine. He's got the link. You can come in too. Ooh, somebody's here. Ooh, Clayton Martin. Do you see
Hey,
my
what's
boomerang?
We have a visual Barton. Look at this.
Yeah, I know. I set up my studio today. It's looking real schmick. So I thought, hey, you know what? I might show it off. Got this nice rim light happening on the top of my beanie,
Yeah,
so I got that
okay.
back on.
Looking good, man.
You guys, it's weird looking at you. I'm usually looking at like goblin thing, whatever you have as your
Hey, is that
avatar.
a gut statue?
It's Kozor.
Yeah, that's a gut statue. It's good that you know who he is, actually. You got some brownie points just then, Lola.
Yeah, I
gets
know
all
what
the
a
brownies.
behel it is, so.
Yeah,
Good.
that's a manga, right?
A what, sorry?
A manga. Manga.
Oh, yeah,
Manga.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Monger,
A
because that's
manga.
how you Aussies say it.
I just
Yeah.
say it because just to be an idiot because I don't really read it and I just do it to be a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read that much of it either. But I've got Berserk. I've got some Dragon Ball Z that I haven't opened. Corey gave it to me as a birthday present.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, no, I've been reading it on the weekends. I don't often just sit down and take the time to enjoy a comic book or a manga. So it's been wonderful. It's nice. It feels like a time before all this social media and internet came along. You know, when you're holding the paper in your hands and you're experiencing a story. That's
Why
a rare
don't you
thing
tell
these
us
days.
about that tonight? You know, the time before the internet.
We're old.
What was it
Yeah.
like?
Were you around before the internet, Lola?
Yeah, we don't know your age, so
Oh, you've never said your age? I thought
No,
you were
I
like
have.
36 or something.
No, I'm 34.
Oh, right.
She's a puppy.
I remember AOL. Does that count?
Yeah, that
Yes,
counts.
it's the internet.
I remember dial-up.
56K modems.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember nothing. Zero. We didn't have internet at all. It
Yeah.
didn't exist.
Yeah, I didn't have it for a long time either. I was like mid-teens before we got it, and that was dial-up.
Yeah,
I remember you
dial-up.
used to be able to buy the CD, and like on that CD you would get a certain amount of megabytes to use within a particular amount of time, and that sucked, man. I would download like, you know, 6 2-minute porn clips, and then boom, that was it. No more dial internet. Used it all up. Mum was like, "Where's all the internet gone, Clayton?" I don't
what
know.
are you doing, Will?
I'm trying to see what Grimmer's avatar is.
Oh, hey,
That's-
Replicator, what's up?
Grimmer, what's your avatar? Replicators here? Welcome, Replicator.
Yeah, Replicators.
What's up,
AKA the
Replicator and
Robocop.
John?
Because there's a
Grimmer, what's up,
replicant.
Grimmer?
That's right. Forget about that. Yeah, hey, what's up, Rob?
I feel like if we could go back to a time before the internet, life might be more peaceful for a lot of people.
Well, the internet just exposed the crazy. It's always been there. You know, it just made it more in your face. It made like just everything in your face. It was always around. You just really didn't notice it.
It got inverted, I think.
You think it was the other way?
I remember you could, back when I was a kid, right? And, AOL was just for basically hooking up with girls, pretty much. But I remember you could actually have a genuine connection with somebody on AOL. I remember that. You could actually talk, right, for hours with somebody in a chat room, right? On the internet now it's inverted, right? So it's very toxic personas now.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's genuine, I made a friend that I was friends with for 25 years. I never met, You know,
Wow.
all days. You know, that I never met in person. I mean, I knew everything about them, knew what they looked like, etc., but I never met them in person. But you could have a genuine connection with people back then when it was straight up chat rooms. Yeah, there was predators walking around, and there was all that bullshit we heard about the whole to catch a predator thing.
Yeah.
But I remember you could really talk to people on the internet. Now you should try pulling up a Tinder or a Bumble and see what kind of fucking conversations you get to have on there. Whereas now everything's algorithmic. If you don't say hi in the right way, you're not talking to anybody, right?
Really?
There's like a fucking algorithm for how to say hello.
Yeah, he's
right?
not wrong.
You're not allowed to say hello.
But what? I mean, this isn't due to the internet, but my youngest nephew, because somebody texted him, and I was like, "Why don't you text him back?" He's like, "You can't do that. Like, you can't do it. Why can't you text him back?" He's like, "Well, you gotta wait. You gotta wait like 2 to 5 minutes." I'm like, "What?" Like, just reply to him, man.
Yeah.
It was funny. I mean, he's 12, so it was more humorous to me than anything. But yeah, he's not wrong. Go ahead.
Like,
Sorry.
I know the internet and texting has become like a problem when I can hear my kid talking and like instead of laughing, she goes LOL. I'm like, no, stop.
Oh,
Stop.
so sick of people talking in that LOL and all. Just the what is it called, Will? Whenever they have those.
What are you talking about?
Like LOL and WTF, like when people talk that in those letters.
Or like raffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what the name of that is.
Rolling on the floor, laughing, some shit like that.
No, but I mean, like, it's not an anagram, is it? It's a acronym.
It was an acronym, right?
Acronym, yeah. Acronym.
Laughing my fucking ass off.
Yeah. When people talk in acronym, I just like, oh, stop, don't. Hurts me.
She's like 8. I'm like, where are you even picking any of this up? Like, stop. Just stop.
But I just remember. I mean, I don't know. I'm the older one, not by too much, really. But there was no internet at all. Like, you were a kid, you just played with the other kids, and that was it. You went home, no pagers, no nothing. Had to be home before the streetlights were on. It was a different time.
Simpler time.
It was simpler, but it was just more pigeonholed, I guess. Like, you existed in your world. Like, that was pretty much it. The internet gave birth to the world. Now now I'm talking with people in Australia. That's wild. Now I'm more involved with the world itself. It's pretty crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, some person? He says I put on my wizard robe and hat.
Oh, well, welcome.
Yeah, like we're able to connect more, right? So my question was the internet a good idea or a bad idea?
It's a good idea, for sure. It's just...
See, I disagree with you.
Oh, okay. Explain yourself.
Yes.
I think it was a bad idea because it did expose everybody's thoughts and ideas out there, and like everybody gets in their feelings, right? Like when we text, you can't convey emotion through text, right?
No. It's all very confusing.
When you're texting, right? Especially like say you're texting the opposite sex, right? Like you take every word that's said and you want to overanalyze it and put more emotion into it that might not be there.
Yeah, I hate it when people just send you a thumbs up as a reply. I'm like, what the fuck?
You know what I hate?
Trying to mess with me?
You know what I hate? When you have a conversation and there's a one-word reply and you're like, you're fucking boring, Yeah. And I hate that shit when people cut off conversations. You're trying to have a conversation with somebody and they cut you off.
I hate that too.
That drives me up the fucking wall.
But at the same time, some people are just not great at communication, especially over text. Yes, a lot of the old people are to blame for that. Like at the generation before us, our parents and especially our grandparents, it's like they write messages in a way where it just sounds like they hate you and it's your mother. But then at the same time, there's a lot of peers out there that, are your friends and whatnot who also can't communicate that well. And so they don't know how to keep a conversation going over text. I have to try pretty hard, to be honest, with some people. Like, I'm much better in person.
I am too. I'm the same way.
Well, like even like online or in text message format, whatever. But yeah, a tone is difficult in a way. If you know the person, you can kind of be like, oh, okay, I could hear their voice in this one, But I mean, the internet was you choose to put out certain things online, though. You choose to put out things in text format. People choose these things. So you can choose to put out these stupid little feelings that everyone has. One thing I hate is like those the ones that are like, oh, rough day. It's like, and that's it. That's all they say. It's like, well, you're just obviously wanting people to say, what's wrong? What's the matter? How are you? You're begging for attention at this point. You don't have to say that. You can go talk to you can still talk to people in a human format and be like, hey, Ma had a rough day today. And she's like standing in front of you. You don't have to be vague, But
Yeah.
it just, you choose to put these things out there. There's plenty of things people don't know about me because I don't put them out there. It's just that it's personal. If I choose to tell you, I'll tell you, either in this format, and this is no different than having a phone call, in my opinion. This is pretty similar to that. So it's just opened things up a little more. So people do abuse it, and it's changed people in a specific way. So there's bad to good to everything.
Well, do you think that like communication has become a lost art form?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah.
Conversation in general has become a lost art form.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because you're talking to a black mirror most of the time. And I've noticed in person when you're talking to somebody, they don't understand the kind of it's called tennis of conversation, where you listen to another person intently, you take in what they say, you respond, but you also kind of assimilate what they said and respond back to them. You know what I mean? So there's kind of a getting to know each other and a point to the conversation, as opposed to I talk, you listen, I talk, you listen, and you haven't actually fucking said a thing to each other.
Yeah, but that could happen in real life.
No, I'm saying that's what happens in real life all the time now.
Yeah.
Oh, now. Okay. Well, that's happened, I guess, before too. If you're in certain settings. What up, Plague?
Not much.
Dan!
Hello.
How's it
Sound
going,
like
friend?
It's going good.
Do you have a Leah
Dan.
with you?
Yeah, she's here.
Hi, Leah.
She can't hear you yet.
Oh, okay.
You really bummed out Leah or Lola.
No, wait. I think like communicate, like we as humans, we communicate, right? Like that's how we convey what we need, what we want, what we feel, what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're doing it all the time through a screen, like you lose the emotion, you lose the human aspect.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, this is like a phone call, though. Like, I mean, in this aspect. Now, if you're typing, yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like in texting or messaging or even like in social media, right? Like you find it a lot with social media. That's why people get so fucking pissed off. Because like Twitter is like the best example of this. I always call it like the worst game of telephone you could ever play. Because like somebody will put out a tweet, right? And then someone who follows them may see your response and not the actual tweet. And so then they're responding, and then someone who follows them sees their response, and they're only going through, and they're not getting the full context of the conversation. So they're like getting heated up, riled up, and so they're speaking their mind.
Yeah, it's like I heard this person said this about you.
Yeah. And it's like, what kind of fucking game of telephone are we playing here?
Well, and it's also people apply their own tone. Like, you apply your own context to the perception of that tweet, right?
Right.
So it's not like a situation where, like, so you're interpreting how you believe they're saying it as opposed to how it might actually be said. Like, what is the tone? What is the intention behind those words? But you can't perceive that because it's literally just writing. And so people kind of pick and choose how they want to feel about other people's words as opposed to maybe what the meaning was behind it.
Right. But then they also want to personalize it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you know someone on social media and you've talked to them before and then they put something out there, you're like, were they saying that about me?
It's always
Like,
about me.
Mm.
Always.
Yeah, your brain lies to you a lot.
Yep.
It happens to everybody, especially when it comes to thinking about what other people think of us. And the funny thing is we never know, and yet we make so many assumptions about it. And they've done studies on this in the past and how dangerous it can be as well, where they will bring in two people, sit them in a room together for an interview, and these are two strangers, right? One set of strangers will go in, and the scientist people, the analyzers, they won't say anything to them. They'll just put them in the room, see what happens, and usually they get along. They start talking about stuff and find common interests, the regular things that are supposed to happen within an interaction. And then on another set of people, what they will do is they'll say to one of them, hey, just so you know, before going into this interview, this person thinks this or that negative thing about you. And we just think you should know that for full, to give you the full lowdown, essentially, on what the situation is. They'll put them in the room. And even though that person hasn't said anything in reality, the studiers, they basically lied to this person. The vibe that is given off when you think that somebody doesn't like you makes them not like you, even if they were completely and 100% even keeled about their opinion in regards to you in the first place. So, a lot of communication is not verbal. A lot of it is all in the tone, the micro expressions, the kind of words that you say, the speed at which you say it, the body language, of course, comes into it. It's spastic, and most people aren't attuned to it. It's completely subconscious readings that are going on within us throughout an interaction. And not only are we not aware of them, but if we can't see them on the internet when we're texting somebody, there's going to be a lot of miscommunications happening.
Indeed.
And most of the time, for some reason, our brain, it likes to jump to the most negative thing that it possibly can.
Yeah.
So it'll make me, even though, even before I came on here and had a chat to Will or Jason or anyone else on here, in the back of my mind, I was nervous because maybe they wouldn't like me. Now, why would I assume that?
This is true.
Right? We all assume that. Why do we do it?
I don't know, fear of being, I don't know, fear of being liked or not being liked. I guess. Wow, we're getting a lot of people in here.
Because then we're ejected from the tribe.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if we're ejected from the tribe, then we've got to fend for ourselves. Think about this community, even Comicsgate, right? If we're ejected from Comicsgate, how much does that suck? You lose so many friends.
Well, yeah. You lose. Yeah, you lose a lot actually. Yeah, I mean, I met a lot of cool people because of it. I mean, you're right. Like, especially stuff like streams in a way. You have total strangers you've never met before. Like maybe even talking in chat and you seeing them, you still don't know what their perception of you is going to be, and it matters. Like
Totally.
well, it matters to a lot of people. There are some people who just don't care, and they can go on and just have fun, or just be them. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, but. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we want to be liked. We want to be accepted as the herd mentality. We want to be part of the pack. And we sometimes it hinders us from engaging in certain activities because of that fear that we may not be accepted. Yeah.
Big time.
What up, Hex and Michael?
what up, Hex and Michael?
YOLO.
It's true.
Heard there was a talk about
Maybe.
outcasts and weirdos on the internet, and I get over here, and here we all are. So
Yes.
Well, like, I just find it very interesting, like, the way people are in real life versus the way people are on social media, and how just, like, everything is really emotionally driven on social media, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Where like in real life, I can sit and have a conversation with my best friend and we can get heated, but like we still love each other at the end of the day. We're still best friends, right? Like we can like agree to disagree and move on. Where when you're online and on social media, like it's like people don't move on. They just hold on to shit. Like let it go.
Well, that
Fuck.
and people online, even in this setting where we can see and look at each other and interact with each other, you're a little braver because there's no immediate consequences. You know, sometimes if you say things that people say to each other online, you get hit in real life.
Well,
And there's no consequence of that happening here. So you get a little braver. You get a little, you know, a bit more of the a-hole comes out.
Well, I've even like there's been a couple instances where I've gotten into a little bit of a spout with a couple people, but it happened. It happened, and guess what? I got over it because I'm a human. I'm a human being. You can be like, well, that was in the past. This is now. It was just a thing. It's no different than getting in an argument in real life with like your sister or brother or friend. And then a couple days go by, and then you're like, "Hey, man, you want to get some coffee, get some breakfast?" So like, it just ends up fading away because they're your friend, or even if like it's somebody I just met here, like and if we had a little bit of a bout, like we're friends, it'll that just fades out. Not everybody gets along all the time. It's impossible. So, and
Yeah.
especially in a setting where people don't know a lot, like we know a lot about each other, but we don't know a lot about each other. So there's gonna be instances where things might cross more often than not. But it's like you said, Clayton. We want to be accepted and liked in this pack. So you do have to move on. You have to be like, well, that was just a thing. We're cool now. Things have calmed down. To hold on to that is just, I don't know. It's asinine anyway. Yeah. No matter what setting.
Well, and it's exhausting because you're carrying a lot of weight at that point.
Yep.
Like you're carrying around a lot of negativity and things that most of the time isn't even like they're not thinking about that. Like they're not carrying that with them. Like you're holding it. And when you keep adding to that, then eventually like you end up exhausted, and 90% of the time they end up invigorated by it. So it's kind of this thing where like why do they get that control? They don't. And you don't have to give it to them. Like you can shed it at the door and kind of go, well, is it worth it? Is it worth my energy? Like, could I put that energy towards something that is positive or something that is useful or beneficial to what I'm doing at this moment? Like, most of the time, yeah. And sometimes you do have to feel it and work through it, but it's not, they're not affected by it. So why am I going to let myself be affected by it?
But, yeah, conflict is easy. Conflict resolution is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite rare that people can do it.
Why is that? Why is resolution so difficult? Why is it easier to fight with people that you're never going to see in real life, that will never matter in real life to you? Like, but yet you can't find a resolution to just move on, a resolve to move on.
Because I think people hold on to their beliefs like addicts. And if you try to change it or take it away, they trip the hell out. And so the reason resolving a conflict, taking two ideas or two beliefs and then bringing them together, it requires a strategy. And that strategy involves actually taking on their belief almost and really trying to understand it and empathizing it, being able to explain it even better than they can maybe. And then bringing the two together and trying to build a bridge.
Yeah, and that goes back to with the internet. Whenever you're just a keyboard warrior and you got your mindset on a certain thing, it's done. So you're not in person, seeing them talking. There's a certain energy that comes in the back and forth when you're in person with somebody. You may hold on to your beliefs, but you won't get as argumentative whenever someone is challenging them or even trying to just discuss them. And when you're online, at least some people, they will just automatically go straight to that. I'm so right that I'm just going to lash out at you. So with that disconnect of that screen, you can easily do that. Now, when you're somebody with person, there's just that certain energy that's there, that's in that communication process that just hinders that instant rage. Like it's more of a communication at that point than it is a total war.
Yeah, and sometimes you lose far more being right than being wrong. So sometimes, like, I'm always okay with being wrong if I need to be, and sometimes I am. And if I am genuinely wrong, then I learned something. I got more out of that conversation than I came in with. That's awesome. But some people just want to be right, and they will lose friends over it. They'll lose alliances, and just to feed that ego, and it's debilitating for some people. It can really hold them back.
Yeah. Well, I'm right all the time, so it's fine.
Well, everybody
Blue
knows
raspberry is
I don't-
not a flavor, Jason.
I don't want to be right all the time because you're correct. That's how you learned. Like,
Exactly.
and that's how, civil discourse is how you're able to continue to not only, reinvent your opinions and your decisions, but also gain new insight. So it's, like, I don't like that trope that people are like, well, your wife's always right. No, I want him to discuss things with me. I want him to say, like, no, babe, I don't necessarily agree with that. Because he's like,
You
no.
listening, Dan?
He knows
No.
this. Like, I've straight up told him. Because I don't, like, that's not,
Everything
this
you're
is
saying
this
is
is a
wrong.
partnership. It's a team. Like, I don't.
Heck yeah.
So how
I
do
wanna
we get
know-
back to the human aspect, though?
Yeah, but we're talking about the internet, where the human aspect is
Yeah.
pretty much negated. I mean, you have robots just talking half the time sometimes, So,
So you're all Russian robots right now. Cool.
Yes.
Yep.
That's why it's just an avatar.
Even the Aussie with the strange accent, like, is a Russian robot.
They make them pretty advanced these days, Lola. You've seen the.
I know. Did you see that? What was it we were talking about the other
The
night?
sex
The robot
bots.
with the bionic penis.
Yeah, bionic penis.
Yeah.
It's pretty
So
advanced.
I mean, fuck. Russian,
That's what it's for.
Aussie robots.
But the invention of the internet is both good and bad. Like, I never would have met Plague or Will, that's for sure, if the internet wasn't around. I would have probably read their books. That's it. And they might have read mine. But we never would have interacted. Maybe at a convention, and that's about it. So the invention of the internet is good, but there's a lot of bad people out there, but there's a lot of good people too. So
Most
it
of
just
them.
depends on the user, just like drugs.
Yeah.
But is it possible the internet is turning good people bad?
I think
It
I'm
can.
bad sometimes. I'm like, oh man.
It absolutely can, because some people, especially the younger they are, get access to this, for lack of a better term, global community. They can get infused and locked into ideas the same way that they can get locked, hanging out with a bad crowd sort of situation. So I don't see that as like too different than like real life back when we were all living normal, interactive lives with one another.
On a serious note, yeah. I mean, the whole political shitstorm that has engulfed the Western world in general probably wouldn't be as bad as it is without the internet.
Well, if you look at it this way, like, say the internet didn't exist, you were a kid, you grew up with your neighborhood friends, your school friends. Teenager, you start to drive. You then interact with people outside of those zones into other cities. When you grow up and become an adult, you might move to another, like, a metropolis where there's more. You're engaging and meeting bigger and bigger things and places and people. That's what the internet did, but it did it in a global format. So we're just we can have access to anyone at any time, and it does affect you. So it's affected people. It's hard to get a certain disconnect, I guess, where we forget what it was like, at least those of us that were born into it, that what it was like before the internet, and that it's still comparable, but it's just on a larger format. So whether or not you are influenced by certain sects, it's the same, just on a bigger scale. So there's more people to be influenced by. Now, whether or not you take on that in a way, learn from it, from what you do, and take on their ideals, or ban their ideals. It's up to you, and it's just a bigger scale.
But what we find though is more people are drawn into like the negative aspect than they are the positive aspect, right? Like, why is that?
Because
That's
people
human
enjoy
nature.
watching drama.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're a part of it or not, they still enjoy watching it go
This is
down.
true.
Everybody slows down at a car wreck.
Look at
You know, whether they intentionally do it or not, everybody
Yeah.
slows down at a car wreck.
look at streams. Drama streams do way better than chill draw streams.
Right.
They just, because like Leah said, it's almost it's a train wreck. People want to see, and just like in real life soap operas, it's all drama, but people watch them still. Why?
But these people are the same people who are like, I'm sick of the drama. I don't want the drama. No, man, not the drama. And yet they're either right in the middle of it, or they're like contributing in some way, right?
What do Hex and Will think? And then a little silent.
That's what
Hex
I'm
hasn't
wondering.
said a word, so except you only live once, YOLO.
He did say
What else you got to say for yourself except YOLO?
Oh, sorry, mic was off. I was talking the whole time. The entire
Are you
time.
really?
I'm just kidding. no.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I just got lost in all of your dulcet tones. Yeah, I didn't even know what you guys were talking about.
So
Or
you weren't
maybe I'm just
listening.
really stoned. I don't know.
We're having like a stoner conversation right now
That's stoned.
about communication.
Yeah, so I just totally forgot what was just
Yeah.
said. That's how it's done.
Okay.
Hmm.
Will,
Yes.
care to weigh in?
On.
Will's a
Such
good communicator. Tell
He's
us,
a good communicator.
tell us,
That's why I
Will.
asked.
What are the key points of communication people should be keeping in mind that they're just not these days? What do we need to do online when we go to message somebody to let them know where we're at, where we're coming from, so they don't get confused?
A genuine, I think, interest in the other person is a
Heck
big one.
yes.
I've noticed recently, especially, that it can be very isolating, hurtful, destructive to your own personal sense of being when somebody does not at all regard you as a person, but somebody to talk at, or maybe isolate, or maybe neglect. Right. So, like, how I approach talking to people in any context, whether it's personal, romantic, or professional, is I take a genuine interest in the person. I'm talking to you. I am talking with you. I'm not just simply speaking, Or, like I said, and I've noticed that people respond in a way when you're really talking to them. Because people aren't used to being really talked to.
Mhm.
And you receive two different responses with that. You receive a person who just wants to glom onto you as something rare because people don't talk to them. Or you get a person who's kind of reacts like Nietzsche said, right? Where, like, they treat your charity like a form of weakness, right? Like, oh, you're too interested in me,
Yeah.
so you must be some kind of punk.
Right.
Hmm.
And that can be difficult to deal with because, I don't know. I don't really know the point I'm making, but that's what I've observed.
Now that is a good point. There's a good quote that goes along the lines of, if you want to be interesting, be interested.
Yep.
And I think that comes from a book, How to Influence People and Win Friends.
And I'll tell you what's a very painful thing to encounter, Clayton, is when you're being genuine with somebody and you're talking about something that may excite you or you find intellectually stimulating or spiritually important, and you put a lot of thought into talking to this person and expressing yourself, and you get back either silence or a one-word response. It can crush you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel like that entire spiritual or intellectual endeavor was so small that it can be dismissed. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Man, I completely relate with that, because I talk I'm a kind of eccentric dude, so I talk about a lot of that stuff, like philosophy and spirituality and the unknown. And a lot of the time, people will just look at me as if, or outright say, "So what?" Like,
Yeah, that's
I'm
very
like,
that can
What
be
do you
very
mean?
hurtful sometimes. Like,
I'm like, what do you mean? Isn't that blowing your mind?
Yeah. Like,
well, no, well, and it's not necessarily you want to blow someone's mind. Is that you have this thing inside you that you really want to articulate, right? It could be anything. It could be I'm hurting because somebody hurt me, or it's I'm really grappling with something,
Big
and
time.
you're sick of going around in circles in your head. And you just need to express it to someone and get a sounding board. And then when you again, to reiterate what I just said, when somebody responds with that, you're like, am I just crazy? It's kind of like gaslighting in a little way,
Well,
It sucks, man.
yeah, if you were talking to them in person, would they just like give you a thumbs up like after your statement? It's like
Or
no,
like in
you
text when people give you your thumbs
right,
up, where they say okay, or okay, and it's like you
right.
fucking a. It's like
But that's what I'm
fuck
saying.
off,
Like
you know.
if you were talking to them in person and having this deep thought, this spiritual connection with that you were gonna trying to have with them, would they just like in real life like give you just a thumbs up or? They wouldn't like they would
No,
maybe engage a little more, so there's that disconnect again, that screen, that whatever it was, that instant communication can make us easily shrug something off that could really offend another person or hurt them, and it's amazing actually what that can do to someone.
yeah,
It's happened to me too as well, plenty of times.
Well,
Yeah.
and it feels like
Yeah.
the internet has made it a lot harder for people to empathize. Like, it's made it a lot harder for people to go, oh, I may not know this, or I may not be experiencing this, but I can understand how that's difficult for you,
Mhm.
or I can understand how that would be hard. And like, it's made it a lot harder for people to step back from themselves and go, yeah, no, I see you. And I think empathy is the way that will inevitably, or ideally, lead us back to this. But that's a relearning, it's not a lot. It's not an instinctual thing for people to go, oh, really, and bring it in. So, but my theory is
Yeah, empathy is lost. I think that's also lost with a younger crowd. Like they just, and I don't want to be that. We're back in my day, But I think it is true. Like a lot of younger people, they just don't have it anymore. They don't really have a sense of empathy. They're just so focused on themselves and their own personal agendas that they don't care. They just don't care. And so when you're having this deep conversation, like I used to sit around and late night at Denny's with my friends, and we'd have these kind of talks, these exact same kind of conversations. We would also have ones about aliens or philosophy or spirituality, and also just fun, art and comics. It was the
So
same
this
principle.
panel,
Yeah, this panel pretty much, and it was, but it was a more connection though, because we were all talking. Now somebody told us, somebody in that communication forum where we were all sitting there listening to one person, they were telling like a sad story, you would empathize with because you're in there in person. Now younger people don't hang out as much, it's all this, so you don't have that interconnection of an actual physical human being sitting there telling you something. You have digital screen telling you something. You can't empathize with a digital screen as much as you can with seeing somebody's, just the weight, the gravity of somebody telling you a story, and them just, you can feel it coming off of them, and that makes you empathize with them. This screen just negates it.
Well, I want to add to that, Jason, and I want to say to John, I'm crashing in more ways than one. But there used to be, I don't know about you guys, but when somebody shares something extremely personal with you, or they choose you to tell you something, right, that's important to them, or it may be even incoherent, but it's something that you can tell is making them vulnerable, my first instinct is to say thank you for sharing that with me. And I don't really hear people gratified that somebody chose you to share something with. You know what I mean? I people tend to see it as a burden. To me, a total stranger telling me something extremely personal is almost like someone giving me a gift. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, wow, you that's a very special thing that you chose me to share with.
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to do that, isn't it? Because like we're so um guarded as human beings. I think that it's funny because I share most things, but I feel like it's not an everyday occurrence that you see people just being vulnerable with one another. Because I mean, when you're vulnerable with someone, I guess you're giving that other person a lot of power,
yes, you
and
are.
they could crush you, they could laugh at you,
Mhm.
they could not be your friend anymore because you were vulnerable with them and they didn't like what they heard. And so it's very unfortunate. I feel like just going back to the when people send you a response like thumbs up or a yep or a one word answer, I feel like sometimes, you know what, maybe it is like I feel disrespected. Maybe this person isn't my kind of deal. Maybe they're not my type of person. So there's different people who are going to get along, right? For example, I'm sure that Will and I could talk for hours on end and never run out of things to say. But there's also other people out there where I'm like, I couldn't spend more than 10 minutes with them before I really felt like I was struggling to keep the conversation going.
Are
So
they Kardashians?
probably it's so sometimes I think it's maybe a conflict of personalities, and you've got to find, you know, your tribe. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
Yeah, and like I could like even like the thumbs up or the okay. Like if you're busy and you can't really respond, be like text. I am busy. I'm busy, but I want to reply. I will later. I've done that. I've been
Yeah.
like, look, I'm busy. Work is busy. I want to respond, but I can't right now. I will later, and that's it. And they're like, they'll wait. Like you're at least giving them the acknowledge that you know it's almost like saying thank you in a way for telling me this, but it's letting them know, look, I'm not ignoring you. I do want to talk about this. I just
Right.
can't. But if you give a thumbs up or an okay, to me that's saying, look, I really don't care.
Yeah. It was also important to me, Jason, that people I care about know I value them. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's very important
Well,
to me.
I'm not gonna lie, like if you get a thumbs up for me or a K or a yep, I'm probably like being a sarcastic asshole who's pissed off because you said something that's pissed me off.
We need
Yeah.
a sarcasm font, is what we need. Like,
Well, like what I do is like if I send you a K with like a smiley face emoji, then that just means like okay, like I'm good, like
Oh
you know.
shit.
Well, that depends on
But
the conversation itself too, though.
I've been guilty of all these things.
You're the worst kind
yes,
of people.
yes, you
Well,
have. But I love
and you
you.
will find you'll
I'm not
find even
trying
in
to do
text
it to be malicious.
conversations.
It's when I don't really, I can't think of anything else to like add. Like I totally 100% agree. So it's like I send a little 100% agree or the thumbs up. Like I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be rude.
I think what makes it seem rude is the fact that it's like an emoji. Like if you were to just say I agree 100%, like if you were to type that out, that may not be as
Shouldn't have invented the emoji. That
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I have to have the emojis because like
It's
if I
made
just
my
say
life
K,
too
then that
easy.
means I'm pissed.
but
Emojis,
okay,
by their very nature, feel like prepackaged responses. I think that's
but
the
in
biggest
that
problem with those.
that yeah, that ease is though kind of has have people be like, look, you couldn't care enough to actually type things. You chose the easy way out. Like people do take it personally whenever you
Just
take an
don't
easy
care
route.
enough to send the best.
So Dan, when you have that conversation and you agree 100% and give the thumbs up,
Yes.
if that person doesn't reply, does it just stop there? Because it's difficult to reply to a
Sometimes
thumbs
because I
up.
don't like. I mean, there's. So difficult because I literally.
Do you want me to go to bed, babe? So you
No, you can. No, I don't think I do that to you that much. I mean,
You're more of
occasionally
a
I do.
you're more of a phone guy, right, Plagal? Like
I'm
you'd rather
definitely
just
more of a
talk.
phone guy. I'm
Yeah.
not a big texter.
Hmm.
Like, like I don't feel like I come off well in text, and like text responses to me are just like I don't know. Like they in themselves are the lack of time to communicate with somebody, in my opinion.
But
Like
it
I
doesn't.
prefer like in person, and if not in person, then to hear the person's voice. because
But
then I can get a gauge of how I'm coming across. Sending
well,
it like I send text emojis and photo images and stuff like that sometimes, but in general, like I'm not a fan of like the text message sort of like deal. Like it's just not my thing.
I
But
know our people.
I'm more animated as a person anyway, like when
Yeah.
I communicate. So there's lots of inflection. I do, as everybody knows, I do the freaking voice shit, like all that. That's just like how I communicate. So to me, like the text thing is just like it's hard for me to communicate that way a little bit. Like there's things that I want to say in a message that I can't communicate in a message
That's true.
because it's
Oh.
like it's an inflection on something that I know you will get or find funny, but like I couldn't do it in a text message because you wouldn't get it. Like I'm trying to think right now of an instance where there was something I said like
But this is why
there's
we
like
have gifts, right?
phrasings and things
Yes.
of things that I've said that like I'm trying to
I
think.
get that because communication person to person is a bit more spontaneous, whereas
Yeah,
messages, I guess, are more logical. So you're like thinking
they
about
are. They're a lot more
how
thought out.
how
And
can I
that's the thing is like
construct my.
I don't have that. Sorry,
No, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was like talking over you. I was just realizing because I was. That's the thing with me is like I'm not like I can be deep, I guess, from time to time if my brain's in the right place. But most of the time, my brain is kind of in a shallow place, I think. And like even right now, like I'm trying to find the best way to communicate, like how I respond like that with this stuff, and it's even difficult for me to find words really to explain that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I think it takes familiarity of tone, right? Like if
Yeah.
you speak to someone on a regular basis, like, we talk on the phone a lot. And so if he'll send me a text message or a GIF or something, I honestly, like, my brain already recognizes what he's, like, the tone that he's trying to utilize.
Mm.
But if someone doesn't know you well enough and you use certain words that you think, oh, they're just going to take it this way.
Yeah.
Because that's the tone that I would be using or that's the tone that I'm putting out. But if they don't know you well enough, they're not going to recognize that right off the bat and be like, oh, she was saying it this way or he was saying it with this silly voice that he uses all the time when he says that.
Yeah.
Well,
I get that.
the other thing is though, not everybody's on, like, we're all on different time zones. So there's times when,
Yes.
like, Will is texting me sometimes, and maybe I'll be at work or something. I'm not gonna be, I'll text him back. I can't call him. That'd be great if we can call and have the verbal communicate. That would be wonderful. But we just can't do it because of just certain things that are going on. So that's where
there are necessities where that thing is the thing. Like
right.
That's the only choice. But I would say sometimes if I'm willing, like, just going in to like communicate or respond to something somebody tweeted or wrote on Facebook, which I rarely ever go on there, but it's just like it's such a spontaneous thing for me to do. I'm not thinking of, I'm thinking more about like I'm at least acknowledging in some way other than just leaving it. Do you know what I mean? Or passing by, like, I don't know.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. The fact that you took the time to engage in itself is the acknowledgement rather than not engaging at all, which makes him look slighted.
So, like, if Clayton was to post an image, which he does a lot of the times, and then I don't like it, which I do a lot of the times, that's because I hate it.
You don't like my images?
No, I'm totally fucking around. Every time I see one of your posts, I'm always liking it. But my point is like I get, because I have been part of the psychological like mind frame of like, oh fuck, they haven't liked my thing yet. Like, fuck, I'm pretty sure they watched it and they just left it on watch. like what the fuck, Like I get that psychology, but I also like right now in this moment of us talking about it, when I'm thinking about it in a step back frame, I can go, well, like, how many times have I looked at something and gone, that's really cool, and then just flipped on to the next thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe you're just an alpha Dan. Like the least reactive always looks more alpha.
Hi,
I'm
Sleepy
definitely not
Mike.
an alpha though, so that that negates me out of the question. I'm
Hello, friends.
I'm a supportive, I would think.
Sleepy Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
Who is Sleepy
I just
Mike?
popped in. I just popped in real quick to say if it's something
Excuse me.
super important and you're texting it to somebody, you're gonna get the response you don't want. If it's super important and it means a lot to you, call that person, go visit
True.
that person, have a true interaction. Texting is the laziest way to get that dopamine hit of, well, I'm not going to get what I want out of this. If you're opening your heart to somebody or something so important to you, you need to verbalize it. Otherwise,
Okay.
you're going to get what you don't want, which is a thumbs up or an okay or whatever. This generation has completely and utterly lost its ability to understand the levels of importance of communication. I think texting was never intended to be the primary way we communicate with each other. I mean, it's called a phone for a reason, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
but like,
I may sound like I may come off like a dick right now,
But aren't
but
phones
like,
antiquated now?
phones are like.
well, that's
so
up to the person, I guess.
The problem with
But I
phones
mean,
is I have a buddy who I messaged the other day, and I'm like, "Hey man, can you give me your quick thoughts on this, and this?" It was a very simple question, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll call you up tomorrow." And I'm like, "Can't you just like message me what your thoughts are? Like, why?" And he's old fashioned, like you, Sleepy Mike. So he loves calling me up every time, and I'm like,
well,
but then I've
no,
got
I
to
mean,
wait for the call, and then it might take
if it's
forever.
something simple, then text or send an email. But if you're like, if you're needing to express your emotions or you're wanting to connect with other people with something that you're experiencing, that has to be personal, that has to be verbal, that has to be in person, that cannot be in text. If it's work related, yeah, text it, email it, whatever.
Bye,
But,
Ufta.
you know, to
True.
I'm sorry, I
No,
don't.
it makes sense.
Don't be sorry.
I don't know. I just think the whole kind of attitude of, well, they didn't give me what I wanted. Well,
Well,
But
did you
that's what
go
the
about
internet's
it the right
created,
way?
right? Entitlement. I'm
the other
entitled to your thoughts on me. I'm entitled for you to for me to know what it is that you're thinking right now.
there are some
Yeah.
people who aren't very well at communicating verbally what they want to say, so they do need time to think about it, like,
True.
and write it down in that format. So like
Well,
there are
yeah.
some people who just like can't verbally communicate in that aspect. So that's where text kind of comes in handy, but not everybody is obviously in this
But
scenario.
don't expect
but
the person you're texting to have that same thought process.
Right.
You know,
See, I think that's a
if
mistake
people
we make.
get like a text dump of like 6 paragraphs of something, yeah, they're gonna be like, okay, because I mean that's a lot to take in.
What's
in a
up,
text.
Joe Balzac?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm so old fashioned that if you're not communicating with me through smoke signals or carrier pigeon, I mean, just go fuck yourself. I got no use for you.
I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah,
I want long letters written on parchment.
yeah. Like don't go sending me a telegram or some modern horse shit like that. I ain't got time for these new fandangled ideas like rotary phones and telegrams.
He's like, if it's not if it's not a John Davis like Garfield comic strip explaining what you need or your thought, then don't bother communicating. It's got to
I'm
be in a
just saying,
4-panel grid. And
Bust out the
people who
typewriter,
are
make a 15-page
upset
letter,
that
put it in an envelope,
they
and
didn't
send it
get
to
the
me in the
response
mail.
they wanted through a text. I mean, if it's personal and important, and you're not getting the response you want, people are different. Just because you expect the
He sends
response,
telegraphs, Joe.
What's that?
This KSSSSS says he sends telegraphs.
Oh, well,
You know,
hey.
He wants you to know he's going to go the extra mile for you, Joe.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we're going to quickly become friends, and he's going to actually find out I don't respond to any of this stuff.
You know, this is the reason why it's a big mistake. Because I actually agree with you guys. It's a big mistake to message a person too long on a dating site. If you strike up a conversation on a dating site, get them out on that date, like, quickly. Because that message thread will die out so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, start the conversation with, do you do butt stuff? And if she says no, just move on. Get out of there.
You
while
gotta
you
be
can.
charming, man. You say,
Well,
how do you
it
feel about
becomes
drink
so,
with a handsome man?
So swipe left, swipe right that like everybody, like I think they've even said that like we're all like on dating sites, everybody's looking for like the next best thing. Like it's not even about actually finding the person anymore. It's like, oh well, the next person might be better. So there's very much that mentality in modern romance.
I don't get dating sites. Like I don't get the point of them. Like I feel.
And your husband appreciates that.
No, I have friends that have used them, and I'm like, why? What's the point in that? You're taking away from again that human aspect.
They're great. They are great because
dating as an adult is hard. Like it's weird. You don't have like
when
activities
you're single,
anymore, right?
It's difficult because like
you
might not be able to get out anywhere.
You met someone at school or you met someone at your job, but then eventually you're like, I'm not dating anybody I work with. That's too dangerous. And I'm not going to date, people that I'm not going to shit where I eat. So then you end up, having to try to find new venues to meet people. And going to bars is scary when you're a single girl. So you're kind of like, well, what the fuck am I going to do here? I don't want to get roofied, so I might as well not go to a bar. And then eventually, you slowly have to shrink your circle, and then you're like, well, I could try internet dating. At least that's like somewhat safe. But then eventually you just get a whole bunch of messages about your tits and post them on the internet because that's the funny part.
I say just tie a note to a brick and throw it through a gal's window. They love that. It's a sign of a strong man.
Especially if they're up on the third floor.
Yeah. Just a note that says, hey, bitch, what up? And you just throw it right through their window and hope for the best.
What's up, bitch?
Is that how you got Mrs. Balzac?
Mrs. Balzac? No. But, no, I did lock her down through being a rude asshole, though. It's not a lie. She would tell you that herself. When I first met her, she was working for my sister, who owns a salon, and she was there learning to be a hairdresser. She was in school for it, and we were both in our last year of high school. And the first time I met her, I was rude beyond belief, and it's just where I was at in life. I was a metalhead. I walked around in metal costume and was just rude in general. But I changed my ways pretty quick. Once I realized she kind of liked me, I eased up. But it worked.
It works. It does work. Yeah. It's a funny thing because if you go to a bar, right, you can definitely meet people at like out and about, but they're just so much more random. It's like to actually somehow, by some chance, even if you're an outgoing person, walk up to your future wife, it's pretty out there. It happens for some people. It happens for other people who also think that they found the right one, but actually it's the complete wrong one that they are with. They just have hypnotized themselves into thinking they're Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. But I think that the cool thing about online dating is when you go out on a date, and this is how I met my lady actually. You are both aware of the context of the situation. You already know that you sort of like each other enough to go out and meet, and that you're there with the potential of banging, getting into a relationship, one of those things. There's some tension happening. And so I think that's what's cool about it. So you can, when you invite someone out on a date, you can go straight up to them and hug them, even though they're a complete stranger. Say, hey, what's up? Flirt, whatever. And they're a complete stranger, though. But you kind of like each other. You kind of, at that point, you're somewhat attracted physically. So then if you got the personality to boot, then you're good.
Well, what do you think?
What? You talking to me?
Yeah,
About what?
about what he just said.
I'm sorry. I was lost in another thought. I apologize, Clayton. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Is this when your
okay.
party thought?
What's
He's
So,
like,
like-
Will?
what is thinking? Wait, okay, yeah.
What?
No.
Are you okay,
happened?
Will?
No, sorry. I was just. You know how it is when you're kind of like just kind of dwelling on something and you're far away.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spiraling a
I
bit.
feel you.
In the
That's
brain
fire.
space.
You're just far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're usually going to bed close around this time, so it's also late. So those both of those things are crossing, and so you're lost in the thought, and you're not. Yeah, I get you.
But we were talking about dating apps
I'm
and
out of water.
like.
I'll be right back.
I mean, I met my current girlfriend on a dating app. I met her on Bumble.
Nice.
See, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know these apps. I'm like, what? I hear new ones all the time, and I'm like, what? What is that? What is this one? I mean,
it's the one where the men swipe around, but then when you select a woman or when it hits on a woman, the woman has to talk to you.
Yeah. The girl has to respond first before guys can respond.
And so, and Clayton was correct. I mean, this particular woman that I ended up getting with, she was very quick to the point, right? Of like, let's talk, let's meet, let's make sure this is not a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. It's optimized, right?
Yeah.
but then on the other hand, they're just.
Well, she was optimized. Put it that way.
But on the other hand, though, like a lot of people just use them to hook up and move on, right?
True.
Yeah, I think
And that's what most people do.
No, I think it depends on the app.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that's
some apps are
fine,
known
right?
for, like, Tinder is definitely known for, well, at least for straight people, Tinder is very much kind of the hookup app.
Yes.
I thought that was
For
the
gay
one
people,
for.
Tinder is the one that they like, that's the one that
I
gay
thought
people
it's,
end up like baiting.
Grinder.
Grindr's the hookup app for gay people.
Okay.
See, I can't keep up with all this. This is too much.
It's a lot. Bumble, it tends to be a little bit more serious. OkCupid it's hit or miss. You never know. But they all have different kind of genres that they live in as far as what the intentions are behind them, or at least the thought of intentions. But
Like, Sal,
regardless,
you're really quiet about this.
Yes. I don't want to get shamed by giving a thumbs up, but yeah.
Lola,
I think I should be going to bed though. I gotta go to sleep.
We had some dynamite conversations with you, Hex.
Yeah, but not right now.
We love you, Hex, man.
It's good seeing you, man. I haven't seen you in a bit.
Yeah. Well, I just did a almost 7-hour stream, so I'm kind of burnt out. I guess I thought I could jump in here, but
wow,
it's over for me.
He's like, this shit's too deep.
Today.
Too deep.
Not many people are prepared for the 9-hour marathon.
Well, have a good night, man.
Yeah, I was following the Dan Plagle model.
Excellent work, friend.
All right, thank you.
At some point, you get tired on the long one, and you call quits and need to sleep. I do it all the
And if
time.
there's anybody to follow, it's Dan, because sometimes he drops food.
Yeah, you always find a trail. All right.
I have like a whole chat over here I should probably address
man.
at some point.
Night,
All
Hex.
right.
Night.
I just don't know how far into it is.
So many twists and turns.
Night,
Well, you got-
Slipstick.
That is lipstick.
Woogie, what's up, Woogie?
With Wookie, what about Wolverine?
I thought it
Wolverine,
was like
Jim Cox, and KSS. So it's
There's
interesting.
like
at
7
least.
or 8 people. Yeah. Because everybody's burnt out today. Hump day and all. I don't know. We were crazy insane today at work, so I know I'm burnt out.
Is that what it is? Because it's like the middle of the week and we're all just like.
It could be. It could be, Lola. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I even passed out for a little bit because she's so exhausted. But yeah. But I get to work 7 days or 6 days again this week, so I'm gonna be tired. But
Damn, man, that's hard.
That's an interesting attitude to have, the way you phrase that. Instead of I have to work 6 days this week, it's I get to work 6 days this week.
it's a privilege when you work where I
It's
work.
that communication. It's communication.
Yeah. It's a privilege.
Half my office quit this week.
Oh, yeah, that's
That'll be
wonderful.
fun.
Yeah, that's
I know.
great. Doesn't make any more work for you, does it?
Well, I'm
Sorry.
I'm on an island, so like my position is very like I do my own thing, but
I'm envious.
but it'll be interesting to see like how it shakes out as a whole, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, you're on an island? Like
No,
a tropical island?
no,
That'd be
like
nice.
Remember,
my,
Clayton's on an island too.
Island.
You're
I
on an
keep
island,
trying to talk
Clayton.
him into
Nice.
buying an
It's a
island,
nice
but
one.
he's not going for it.
What? I said yes. You were the
No,
one
it's
that
just
didn't
her
want to
job
go to the island.
position feels like she's
Yeah.
on an island.
Yeah, my job
Oh.
position doesn't really like I interact with other people, but it's not like I
Yeah.
do I have my own role that I don't
I'm
really.
preparing to move to an island. I need to be
It's true.
closer to Clayton and my Australian boys.
Yeah.
Hey,
That'd be
Joe.
nice.
Phil wants you to wave to him.
There you go. He's waving.
Where did Joe go?
I don't know. I come back and like you were down a person, and everybody's leaving now.
No,
No, it was Sleepy Mike. He said he was going to stop.
don't leave.
Oh, me? I gotta leave eventually, man. I gotta wake
Oh.
up in a few.
I'm sorry, Lola. What was
Oh.
that?
Not right now, but go ahead, Joe.
I said Phil wants you to wave to him.
All right, yeah. Give me just a second, Phil. I'll do anything for Philip.
Wait. Joe, you'll do anything for Phil?
But he won't do that.
Just about.
Oh no.
$50
No,
is
he won't.
$50.
Is $50, Joe?
$50 is $50. I'll tell you what $50 can get you. It can get you a mediocre sack of
Don't.
weed. So
Does anyone know? Does anyone know what meatloaf won't do for love?
Butt stuff.
Yeah,
What's the thing he
that's
won't?
apparently what it was.
Was it really?
He won't do anal on himself. Yeah. You can't strap one on and put it in his butt.
What a party pooper!
Yeah.
How did you wait?
Literally.
How did you get that from that song?
I was listening to it and I was like, "What won't meatloaf do for love?" And I asked Google, and apparently that's what he said in an interview.
Yeah, he said it in an interview. Yeah.
I thought it was. I always thought it was not sleep with someone else. Like it was.
No.
Like,
Oh, that
No,
would
it's
have
butt
been
stuff. More romantic, I guess, but
nicer.
No.
Like he was proposing a threesome and he
because I mean, have
turned
you
her
seen
down.
the video?
Yeah, it's hot.
Like,
the-
what the?
the-
I have,
No,
I have that
that's not
vinyl
fair.
right here behind me on the wall.
I thought it was about cheating and like.
No.
He's like a beast too.
Yeah.
well, the
You-
catch is meatloaf is gross, so he'll do mostly anything for love. But there's got to be a limit somewhere, even if you're a big gross sweaty dude.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Wookie?
I know this
Did
one.
you hear
Corduroy
about
pillows.
What is
Did you
What's
hear
a
about those
corduroy
new
pillow?
corduroy pillows?
Corduroy
Obviously
making
not.
headlines.
I was at
like
a
a
touch
clothing
today.
fabric.
No, I have not either.
Why don't you explain it?
They're making headlines.
Why?
It's a pun.
Explain, Michael T, since you know.
Corduroy. You like corduroy pants or anything? What was that material like? It was like this heavily ridged,
smooth and liney. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's what my blanket's made out of.
When you use one of those pillows, what happens when you wake up?
Oh, they're making. That was. Sorry,
They're
man. That
making
went over our
headlines.
heads. That
Yeah,
went over
there
our
you go.
heads, man. That went over our heads.
Wookie teasing the late night crowd with thought processes and puzzles.
Well, that's like a level below a dad joke. So it's somewhere in the realm of 90% of people are going to be like, yeah, corduroy, so the fuck what? I had some pants like those back in the day.
I think I still got a pair of like burgundy corduroy slacks somewhere around here.
Oh, Wookie, you asshole. Love you, Wookie.
We
Love
all
you,
like,
Wookie.
huh?
Wookie's a good man.
Yeah, he is.
He's a
Regular
good Wookiee.
Andrew Dice Clay.
So,
Hickory dickory dock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will, you're breaking my heart, man.
Huh?
You're just breaking my heart there. You look so sad.
Oh, well. Sorry. Apologize, Clayton.
no.
It's okay. I just love you, man.
He's
care
worried
about you.
about you. He's
Look,
worried about
look,
you.
we got a smile. We're achieving something tonight.
I knew I
Yes.
could make him smile.
Even though you're
Moments
scared
of
of me, I
joy.
want you to know I care, Will. Okay.
Oh, I run from you every time I see you, Michael T.
I figured that's why you went quiet, but no, you got something deeper going on, even than your fear of me. And
I'm just ducking you as I always do.
Clayton, we have a question in the chat for you.
What?
Why
I
does
didn't bring
Clayton
that
always
up.
bring up pegging?
Meatloaf bring that up.
Meatloaf.
Philip,
bring
have
it
you
up.
seen what he looks like as a woman?
Clayton, your face communicates better than a text message. Look at how hard you're choosing right now. Come on.
Man.
The
Hey,
roles have been
don't
reversed.
tell.
Now Clayton's squirming. He's like, ugh. This is either funny or they got me figured out.
That was
Oh,
Bob
man.
that said that.
No,
It's the nervous laugh of a trapped man.
He insists that I hate it. I will do anything for love. Meatloaf didn't fool me. He got that idea from a Klondike bar commercial.
Yeah, I don't even believe his excuse. I think he didn't know what he wouldn't do for love, and then he just made that up because he wanted to get that out there that he doesn't do butt stuff.
So you're saying he does do butt stuff?
I don't know, man. I think he might.
I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
He was a 70s rock and roll star, so.
Kenny
anything
wore
goes.
eyeliner.
Won't do anything.
Yeah.
I like him as an actor. Anybody
I
watch
think-
his movies or any of
I
his?
Uh-huh.
You know what I think he wouldn't do for love? Eat a salad.
True that.
Yeah, now you're just being ridiculous. Of course he wouldn't need a
Bob's
sound.
big bitch tits.
I thought I saw Meatloaf once on my train line. Maybe he was touring Melbourne or something, but I'm like, whoa, was that Meatloaf? You know when you think that you see a celebrity?
Every time I look in the mirror, Clayton.
That's right.
Wolvo,
That's what your attitude should be, really.
Wolvo says that Meatloaf didn't write his own songs, so
Oh, there you go.
No, I don't know about that one.
I mean, it's a
So
great
this
song.
is somebody else who wouldn't do butt stuff, and Meatloaf was just paid to sing it.
I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, it's more
Or
believable
Meatloaf.
to me like people like Christina Aguilera don't write their own songs, but Meatloaf, I can see him writing that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, did you see the woman in that music video?
Well, that's not the actual singer though.
Oh, is
That's
it?
she. No, the actual the person that sang that line is like a larger woman, but they put her in there to make it more sexy. So she's lip syncing.
Was sexy, man.
Yeah, she's
This- I don't know where my limits would be with a person like that.
that would be lust at
His name
that
is
point.
Meatloaf.
I'm an honest
What's that?
man. I'm not a liar like Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
We completely turned Clayton's
the real
opinion of
deal.
Meatloaf into a negative.
He wouldn't let
thing.
someone put the meat in meatloaf.
Will, do you like Meatloaf? Not just the food.
I only know him from Fight Club.
It's a good
Oh
movie. isn't it?
yeah, I
Bob.
forgot he was in Fight
His
Club.
name.
His name is Robert
Paulson. Yep.
Yeah,
Bad guy.
big
Otherwise,
loose
I
tits.
remember him just covered in sweat and bellowing. But I don't know. I don't think I've actually heard a Meatloaf song.
Oh, you're
Really?
you're
What?
lucky, dude. You're
Yeah,
lucky.
you're not missing anything. It's better
Yeah.
to only know him from film.
I mean, I do remember the cover of his album being attractive.
What's wrong with
That-
this music?
I knew Lego was gonna get upset.
Yeah, Bat Out of Hell, Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Oh.
Don't let your mothers hear this kind of talk because
Yeah, exactly.
guarantee
True that shit. My mother would flip the fuck out.
Yeah, my mom loves Meatloaf.
You
Yeah. Here he
Hands
goes.
out. He's so mad he's leaving the
No, he's gonna
stream.
rep. He's gonna rep some
Not
Meatloaf.
going anywhere, baby. I'm not
Oh,
going
you're
here.
caught
No,
on
he-
the court.
I'm caught on your
He probably has the Meatloaf music video action figure or one of the records on vinyl right next to him. So he's
Yeah.
grabbing.
He's going for the vinyl.
I'm going to put
I called it.
Yeah, he's. I made fun of Jazz one time and he got upset.
What's wrong with jazz, Jason? Gee.
It sucks, but anyway, we're on Meatloaf
Trust
right
me,
now,
he
not
likes
Jazz.
musical cats.
I'm gonna-
I
Yes!
still don't understand it.
Well, I will make sure to find the
That's not
unedited
the vinyl.
butthole cut just for Dan and send it to him.
Of course I
That's the
did.
version of cats I want to see. I sat through that movie. It was terrifying.
All right, make it.
There
I'm
it
big
is,
in.
right there.
I'm big in the play goal.
It's Bat Out of Hell.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
the
love
cover's
it.
cool. I love the cover of it.
Deceiving, though. It looks like it's going to be a metal album, and it's not.
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
a Richard
American
Corbin
music.
drawing.
Exactly. That's what I don't like about it.
I've got
Also,
the special Target one that's on.
Ooh,
Oh.
not even unwrapped.
Plagle. Someone is
Black.
calling you out in my chat.
Black and red swirl. Look at this.
Explain to us why vinyl's better than digital.
Ooh, pretty.
Ooh. It has
That's
a,
why. Right
I
there.
can't 100% explain it. There
John.
there is a quality to the actual sound of the needle being dragged across through the grooves. Like there's a warmth to the sound of the record. It has a
Mm-hmm.
volume to it. I don't know how to describe it.
It's a slight tonal difference, and warmth is
Actually,
a fair way to describe it.
Yeah.
It almost
And so-
feels like more like a live performance than like a cassette or CD.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all like kind of, they have like little crackles and pops occasionally that are somewhat slight, sometimes not. And that also gives it kind of an atmosphere to the record.
yeah, but that album
So-
cover looks like
That's
it's
a
gonna
beautiful album, man.
be like Cannibal
Yeah, it's
Corpse
Richard
or
Corbin.
something.
They had to have it
Yeah.
regardless. Bow, bow, bow.
Really, it
Right
just
on the
comes
bottom,
down to a
songs by
preference
James Dyson.
thing. You know, some people don't care enough about the tiny differences in sound quality for it to really
Yeah.
matter to them. But people that are at least musicians or played guitar, played some kind of instrument, will have a little bit more ear for that stuff, and they will pick up on it. And
Well, you
It's-
know what,
it
Joe?
depends on
The
who you
people
are.
that don't care are the ones that send the thumbs up emoji, okay?
yeah, you're probably right.
Figured it out.
Hold 'em.
I don't know. I vinyl. Yeah, I do like this. I don't own any, but the sound of it
I
is
only have,
comforting.
I only have like a few here and there. I just got a set in the mail that is vintage from '79. Of it's Orson Welles doing radio play of The Shadow. There's like 12 different episodes or
Oh
something.
no!
Super-
Now Phil's gonna drop in.
There's like a war going on in my chat now over vinyl versus digital.
As there should be.
There's room for both. Like, why do we have to fight?
Why can't we all just get along?
Don't
Wait,
make
is this a
it not over.
communication issue? Am I saying
Leah.
communication?
We love you, Leah.
What do you think, Leighton? Vinyl or digital?
Well, you know, I don't listen to a lot of vinyl, but I can see the appeal just in terms of it being more like tangible. Like if you were in an apocalyptic landscape of some kind where the flares from the sun had blasted out our electricity grid and we had no more digital left, you could still, if you had a needle, play the Meatloaf record.
Oh.
That's what I like about it.
And hook up the turntable to a bicycle chain, and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I pick a different album than Meatloaf, but yeah.
That are my thoughts.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, just broke out the ukulele.
I like warmth. I like richness. That's I think what Dan was describing.
Yeah, it's a comfort, actually.
Well, we know what kind of person Wookiee is.
Ends the conversation is what that does right there. That's what it does for me.
Brutal.
Like,
Brutal.
yeah, I mean, I might ask my mom, hey, can we have spaghetti for dinner? And she'll give me the thumbs up. I'm like, that's cool. You know,
That's
but
awesome. It gets me
yeah,
excited.
that's a good thumbs up right there. That's the thumbs
Yeah.
up you want.
I feel like anytime parents use emojis, there's like a sense of pride. Where you're like, that's right, look at you, doing the thing. So proud of you.
Like,
Yeah.
I always send emojis with my words, though, so people know that, like, I'm not...
A jerk.
Yeah. I don't know. When I want to be a jerk, though, like, I just let you know. I'm just like, fuck off.
Really?
Like,
Yeah.
You've said that to people?
Yeah.
wow, I remember texting
I tend to
you
get
when you're
myself in
angry.
a lot of trouble because I'm a mouthy bitch, so...
Oh, shit. I feel sorry for your dude then. I bet he had to get in a lot of fights.
No. Well,
Mm.
Just the one, but we don't talk about
It's
it.
okay.
yeah, we
You
don't
don't have to
talk
admit
about those. Clayton,
I
shut your
thought
mouth.
he said he's like 6'8", so it doesn't really matter.
He knows who
Reaches
he
over and grabs people and moves them.
Giants can grind people into the ground, Clayton.
It's like my lady gets road rage sometimes, and I'm like, honey, if that guy gets out of his car and
Clayton's
he
gonna
was
feel-
twice my size
Yeah, I can't do anything about it.
and wants to take out his rage
It's
on us
rage.
because he,
Well, see,
he tooted
Clayton,
your horn at him too
Rageality.
many times, I'm
The
gonna have to take
difference-
him.
Yeah.
Clayton,
I have to
the
take
difference
him.
in where you live and where I live is 6 points of lead.
Yeah.
So,
6 points of what?
lead.
We're toting heat in this neck of the woods. We're armed all the time.
Oh yeah, true.
Oh.
true.
And that's
Yeah,
the
I
other
wish
thing,
we
though.
could do
Bigger than he walks up, you just flash him a little sign
Yeah.
of like, oh, dude, I'm not fucking around here. So
that. Yeah, man.
Well-
I wish, man. I wish.
go ahead and
That
give it a
does suck about Australia. That we can't bear our own arms.
Well,
Have
that's
you
my
ever
whole.
like went out shooting or anything? Like, have you
Yeah,
ever?
yeah, for sure. Like my stepbro, he's got a gun license and stuff. Because from where I'm from, I mean, you're allowed guns because there's so much rural farming landscape up there, and so if you've got a big property, or you are a part of a gun club, or you like to hunt
Joe?
or whatever, you can get your gun license. But it's different from one state to the next. It's a little bit harder down in Melbourne. You got to freaking become a cop or a special ops to get your gun license down here.
Yeah, but my whole viewpoint is like, yeah, you're getting road rage at that guy in front of you. He could pull over and he could have a gun. So why don't you just not just calm down?
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay. Yeah,
yeah, that's the gun is the last resort.
exactly.
Yeah. But
Some
I
people
mean,
are crazy and they'll just use it. So it's like,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, my
be
knuckle
crazy.
dusters instead.
That happened
Yeah.
that happened here a couple weeks ago where there was a road rage incident and someone shot at a car and it took out a 6-year-old. Like,
Oh,
in
shit.
Barton. Yeah. And it took them but they just caught the people like last week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
But yeah, it was
It's messed up.
basically, a road rage thing. So
Actually, Darren Wagner, he's got some gun stories. Clayton has heard, and Allie actually has a gun story. Yeah, I don't know if
yeah,
you
it's
remember that.
crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff, man.
what do you mean?
Dude.
Like, what kind of gun story?
Like they've
Just-
had guns pulled on them.
Yeah, and I can't even. We get some crazy stories on the Button Bros After Dark stream with the 656 guys too, and it's like, holy crap! Like,
Oh, you're not trying
I
to
can't
keep
even
up with them on
imagine being in
drinks, are
those
you?
situations.
Oh yeah, the 656 crew, man. I don't want to live where they live.
Whoa.
man.
It's
yeah,
like,
where they live though is
It's a freaking movie.
It's not necessarily common. It just depends on where
Right.
you're at. If you live in some shithole part of the States, of course you're going to have guns pulled on you. But if
Right.
you live in a mostly suburban, rational, normal area, it's going to be a pretty rare occurrence. It may happen every once in a blue moon, but it's not commonplace at all. Like the States gets a rap for we're just all Wild West, John Wayne, pew pew,
Yeah.
just shooting our guns everywhere we go. It's like not really. That's pretty
Speak for
secluded,
yourself,
specific
Joe.
area.
Yeah. I was gonna say we live in Orange County, California, like,
Well,
and that
this
happened here a couple weeks ago. So,
Well, but this leads us back to the internet and also 24-hour news channels. You know, you just hear about it more. It was always like this. You just hearing about it more.
And
That's
it's always
I-
focused on the negative stuff, you know.
yeah.
If
Like,
people
I
weren't
would
shooting each
never-
other, they'd be stabbing each other. They'd be punching each
Right.
other.
Yeah, look
It's
at the
going to be
UK.
something no matter where you're at. Corey's got to worry about getting attacked by a spider that's 7 foot long every day of his life when he goes outside. He's in
That's true.
Australia. And no matter what you do, nature is trying to murder you.
He
So-
does
Kangaroos with
koalas.
brass knuckles just roaming the countryside.
But
out
see,
there.
Joe, if he had a gun, he could just go outside and shoot that 7-foot spider.
He
Well,
sure
what
could.
sucks? What sucks is there's still shootings and stuff here. Like there was like a few years back, a club got shot up in the city. Some kid whose dad was a gangster ended up taking his gun and like blowing away some security guards he didn't like because they kicked him out of the club. And it's like so the gangsters still get the guns, but
Mhm.
there's no way for civilians like regular people to protect themselves.
That's why gun control doesn't really work, right? Because the bad guys still get the guns in the end.
They can do, yeah. I mean, in
So
saying
why
that,
not
we
let
do
the
have
good guys
very
have
good
them to like counter it?
The safest parts of the U.S. are the parts with the most loose gun laws. Because when everyone
Yeah.
knows
The
everyone
South.
else is
The
toting heat,
South.
they don't screw around nearly as often, you know.
Yeah, totally. And the thing I love about the US is as well that if, God forbid, you guys are ever invaded, it's like the American population are
Mhm.
their own soldiers. Like they've got something
militia.
to defend themselves with. It's great.
Yeah. It's a militia.
back
But
then they
yeah,
were
in
like
Australia,
Mao
you're real
Zedong.
screwed.
We have
Yeah,
zero
I can-
fear. There's times when, like, I've heard people be like, "Man, I wish somebody would just try it. Just come over and try
Yeah,
a
that'd
land
be-
invasion. Let's see how that goes. It'll be over in 4 minutes."
I'm gonna
Well,
get
I
messed
mean,
up.
I've got guns.
Yeah.
I've got guns in my home.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
I
Well, I
mean-
want to say it was somebody in like Mao Zedong's regime back in like the 40s and 50s era. They said we would never engage in a land war with America because there's a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Right?
Yeah.
Behind
Right.
every door, man. I think that's the best. I don't know if that was intentional by the American government, but I think it's strategically it's one of the best defensive positions to be in.
Well, you're big on history and stuff. The militia aspect of it was like kind of was this the intention? Like if we get invaded, we're all carrying.
Well, it was also to avoid a national army as well, because the national army is one of the ways you get to a tyranny because you don't want a military dictatorship. And they were kind of modeling after the Roman Republic, Roman citizen army, where it's you recruit legions as you need them from the population. You fight your wars, you fight your battles. They go away. They're not a drain on the state. You know what I mean? And they kind of melt away back into the population. That was kind of the idea here, is that you call up a militia and a continental army when you need it. And once you're done fighting, it goes away. No one ever establishes a country for the means of fighting wars. I mean, that's just kind of a consequence of empire, where everything becomes, where empires become engines of war. And all resources go to war. That's what the American empire is. It's just war all the time. But, a nation is there to preserve itself and to be in harmony with itself, right? Because it's a nation, it's a tribe, it's a tradition, it's an ethnicity, it's a language, it's a religion. So that's kind of what we set up, right? 50 little republics, and no national army, because all you're doing with a national army is using it. You can't just stand around. You know what I mean? It's got to do something. So I think the idea was sound and the logic was sound, but once you get into foreign entanglements, it doesn't stick
Yeah,
around.
there's
You know?
that. Yeah.
Once you start getting into the international game, you're going to have a national army. You just can't
Right.
avoid it, you know, if you want to project power beyond your borders.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it always leads to empire. It's inexorable, you know.
Right. So it was kind of like a happy accident in a way, that right to bear arms, that everyone's like, I can now carry a gun. So
Well-
we're a lot of us are armed at this point.
Well, yeah, but being a farmer and being a hunter is training you for
Right.
soldiery, right?
Heck yeah.
So you know, you train your sons. Their sons train their sons, and then when you call up the militia and you call up the draft, you have a nice pool of citizen soldiers. You know, that are ready.
Big time.
That's very true. Like, my husband's grandfather was in World War II, and he was a farmer, but he was a medic in World War II. So
Yeah, Romans were all farmers. You know, the Romans, they were all farmers. You know, they make great soldiers.
absolutely,
You know, they're excellent soldiers because you're working all day, you're dealing with death all day. You know what I mean?
You're learning the lay
very
of
true.
land. You're learning, there's a lot of skills going in there that have real world application in terms of war or struggle.
And you're dealing with death.
Combat. Yeah.
Not only death, but a grind as well.
Yep.
So you're used to being disciplined. You're used to getting up early. You're used to dealing with animals and having to take care of things. Going into the army is a different form of drill, you know?
Mhm.
So that's the ideal. And plus, here's the big one. This is the big one. You're property owners. If you're a property owner, you have a stake in the state.
Hell yeah.
And that was the big thing with the. I mean, I'm making a lot of connections to the Romans because we fashioned a lot of our ideas after the Roman Republic. Is that the Roman Republic had a property qualification for the legions, so you couldn't go in the legion unless you had property. So they didn't just have a universal draft.
They wanted to make sure the people who were fighting had a stake.
Yeah,
They had something to fight for. Yeah.
Also, I mean, this is not germane to the conversation, but going in the Roman legion, you make a lot of money robbing other people. They were systematic robbers. So if you go in the Roman legion, it's kind of a cool thing to do because you can, if you're fighting in the East, you're going to come back with a haul, man.
Yeah, taking stuff.
But here, same thing. You know, they didn't have a property qualification, but if you own property, you are a better soldier than somebody that's essentially what the Romans later became, which is welfare cases, just drifting into the cities, and you have a bunch of freebooters that are Roman legionnaires. They'll just fight for whoever gives them the most shit.
I thought it was who had the most salt.
Yeah, you're worth your weight in salt. Yeah, that's how they paid you.
Oh wow. Jeez, so salt was like really a commodity back then?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Salt keep you alive,
Spices of
man.
any kind, spices of any kind were a huge commodity because
Salt is so
so many
tasty.
other places didn't have them.
They were like, this salt tastes so good. I'm about to go kill some dude for it.
Salt does taste good.
Delicious.
Well, it preserves. It's a preservative.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
Yep. It'll keep you alive.
Disinfect.
that's why Nero was so fucking crazy, because he had all the salt.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It makes me think about going back to the internet, whether or not wars will ever be fought in the same way again. It's because we're talking about times that were a lot simpler and straightforward, but now wars may be being fought that we aren't even aware of at this point. And we may be being manipulated and turned to certain beliefs or directions, certain and again, I'm not going to get to conspiracy theory here because I don't fucking know. I don't have any idea, but I can see how a machine like
Don't
the
lie,
internet
you Russian
and
Aussie robot.
the effect of social media and how we react to it, I can see the potential for control there and us willingly
Potential?
giving it away to yeah, exactly right. You could say potential, but it's clear as day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting actually. I mean, it used to just be the news, right? Like just the few channels on the TV or the radio back in our parents' and grandparents' day that would sort of direct the general social belief system as to what was happening with the world and how we were supposed to see it. But not anymore. It's quite different. And there are a few key players who basically hold on to that control. And you just hope that they have built their platforms upon a set of rules that are similar to how the US was built in the first place, and that everyone's individual interests are at heart, first and foremost.
Well, a great
Doesn't seem to be the
example of
case.
what you're talking about, Clayton, wouldn't that be like George Orwell's War of the Planets or whatever, where he did the radio broadcast in like the 1930s and like everybody thought like aliens were coming and like there was a war?
Well, think about deep fakes, right? Like how easy it would be for someone to do a deep fake of name your president, have them talking some shit about another country, and for that country to be like, hey, we were just waiting for an excuse here. Let's do it.
And I think like credibility of sources, like that's another aspect of the internet that the internet has made more difficult. Is that 30 years ago, your main sources were print and library, right? Like you went to a library where there was a librarian who their job was to make sure that everything that was in that library was sourced and correct. And now, like you can search anything on the internet. And that can be used as evidence towards what your belief system is, as opposed to really getting down to what is factual. And so, being able to figure out where these sources are coming from, what the intention behind them is, as opposed to like having to read through an entire book to glean the knowledge and the facts that you need to support your argument.
We got way more access to information, but at the same time, there's information that can back any point if it's, just worded or set up the right way or a stat presented a certain way. So yeah, it's definitely made things like better in terms of how quick we can get info, but worse in the sense of like now there's just a clutter of nonsense and it gets harder and harder to define the facts from the fiction if you're not already extremely knowledgeable about certain topics.
Yeah, and who does that anyway? Like, we're so programmed not to explore whether or not our sources are accurate. Like, so many people accept what it is they're told. And
it makes
it's on the internet, it's true and real.
Yeah.
Well, it's gotten to the point that Wikipedia sources their stuff better than our actual news cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like on Comicsgate. Look at the Wikipedia on that.
Yeah. Except for that.
Don't get me wrong, there are some absolute
experts, right? Like it's made people pseudo experts. People go to the doctor and they reference, they don't have a medical degree, but they're referencing WebMD and saying like, oh, I definitely have this thing because this is what WebMD is telling me. Which I do agree, question things, and I think like you do have to be a self-advocate, but sometimes it can cloud what someone actually is suffering from or what ailments they do have because they've read this thing that is telling them that this is definitely what they have. So
do you guys like the idea that now there is more choice of information? Because before it was fairly heavily controlled. There were only a few sources out there, and so you would want to hope that they were accurate. But now we've got this. You could look at the internet as an absolutely massive community. It's a universe of people who can all start up their own YouTube channels like this, start their own accounts, and share their ideas with you, share their experiences with you, share their opinions on what is happening with the world, people that you may relate with or may not. Do you like that is the position that we're in now?
That's it. Since you put it that way, Clayton, I'm going dark. Bye, everybody.
Uh-oh. No more Lola.
There's so many, like, ideas and, like, weird, like... There's so much weird shit that people think up out there, right? And like want
There
to
is.
say that it's true, and they try to back it up with all these like the Onion type sources and 4chan sources.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want to be a part of that community. Fuck that.
It's weird though, because like you'll get people like who was that crazy dude that Joe Rogan would always have on, and
Alex Jones?
Alex Jones, right? So okay, Alex Jones, really crazy dude, sounds unstable, but at the same time, a lot of the things he
He's
said
always right.
were
Yeah.
fairly backed up, like and were turned out to be true.
Have you heard the Alex Jones song?
Yeah, I love that. There's a few of them, isn't there?
There's like a folk song.
Oh right, I listened to the remix.
I like the folk song.
The remix.
Well, and Alex has been the first to admit that, like, he knows these concepts, these ideas, and these things that have happened. He knows that he's not the best at communicating them because he'll skip the explanation steps and go straight to frogs are gay. Yeah.
Totally right. And then it turns out that they are. But the funny thing is so what I guess I'm asking is, do you guys like the access to the newfound access to information that we do have through the internet? The fact that we can actually get information from sources like, let's say, Alex Jones, who's, even though he sounds a bit crazy, he was a pretty well-researched dude.
Yeah.
Or would, yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to tell you, Clayton, I'm a little bit of a retard.
That's pretty good. That was a really good impression.
I'm glad we have it, but at the same time, I miss simpler times.
No,
Like,
no.
it's not like
I would
going out
rather
and
walk my
going
happy
out.
ass down to the library and like go through
It's
the card
overwhelming.
catalog. Wait, for people who don't know what a card catalog is, it's those little cards that tell you where the books
Dewey
are,
Decimal.
and then like go through the books and find the actual research. There's no one ever, Clayton.
Dewey Decimal.
Well,
I gotta
Do you
get
think we'll
going.
go back to that?
Huh?
Jason's
I
got
gotta-
Do you
to
think we'll,
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go to
Oh,
bed.
See,
yeah, now, Jason.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for coming out,
Okay,
Jason.
Jason.
Later.
Have a good sleep.
Later.
Jason's here. When did he get here?
I mean, like I work with teenagers in my second job, and like it's interesting because
sorry,
they
Leah.
definitely no honestly, like they're theater kids, so it's not that bad. But there is this aspect where like I do see that they are having to utilize the library, like that is a focus, at least in the school system out here, that they do have to like have multiple sources, and they can't all be internet and they can't all be newspaper, that that there is a focus on sourcing good material. So I think it is there, but the focus is not, because we've gotten spoiled. We've gotten spoiled by being able to go into Google and search something and it pops up 20 sources, or go on Wikipedia and look at their sources on Wikipedia and utilize those. So we've gotten lazy on seeking out that information. And I think that is where we're falling short as a society. That it's having to find those and like look for them, right? Like you can't. That's how you learn.
Well, I think like okay, because we live in a society that wants everything right at our fingertips, right? Like we want everything like immediately. And I think the internet has like perpetuated that. Like,
yes,
because we have everything at our fingertips. Like, we have fast food now too, right? Like fast food is part of that. Like people don't want to cook at home because they can just run and get it for like $20
That's
cheaper.
even at your fingertips with like Uber Eats and things like that.
Oh yeah, man, I use that.
That's how we got dinner tonight.
Clayton's life goal is to be meatloaf at like 60.
Yes. Yeah.
Dan's just like, why are you outing me, woman?
No, I ordered it. Are you kidding? I'm the worst about it. I hate, like, once I'm somewhere, I'm like, I don't want to get back in the car. I did so much driving today.
No, but like that's what we're about, right? Like we're about rapid, like fast. We want it immediately, and we want it like as soon as we can get it, like to be exactly how we want it.
Yeah, and it's actually devolving us. It's not a good thing for us to, because we only get. I mean, the gym is a perfect example. We only get stronger through pushing ourselves, going to the effort, and so when you've got everything at your fingertips. And by the way, that amount of stuff at your fingertips, our biology hasn't even figured out how to catch up to it yet. Like we're like watching like 3 porn videos at the same time and not remembering either of them.
You might be.
It's but you know what I mean? Like, how many tabs do you guys have open right now? I've got like freaking 20.
Well,
Like, I got 3 pornos up. I got to slow down. I don't want to jizz yet. I got to hold out. There might be a better one.
I've got 6 open because I totally wasn't planning on talking about communication tonight or internet communication.
Is that all you've got open? Just 6?
Yeah, I've got Twitter, my StreamYard, and then I've got 4 articles. Well, 3 articles and a Tawny Catan.
That's good.
Let's skip straight to that.
Well, that's the thing about general happiness, right? Is that if you think about simpler times, right, where your base needs of shelter, food, clothing were things that you had to go out and seek. You had to go out and make that happen for yourself. And now our base needs are for the most part taken care of. So I think people create problems for themselves to solve to feel accomplishment.
Totally.
So much so that the very things you're talking about are simulated in some of the most popular video games today, including Minecraft.
Yes, right? We have to create these things for ourselves to solve them, to feel like, oh, where's my my pat on the back and my gold star because I did something today. Because it's not about it's not about how am I going to eat. It's what am I going to eat. It's not about what am I I have this thing one thing to wear. It's what am I going to put on today? And so we have to we've complicated ourselves and we now have to find new things to.
Like the simpler times, though, people were happier. Now we have higher rates of depression. We have higher rates of anger, fighting. There's so much negativity in the world now, and I think I attest a lot of that to the rapidity from the internet.
Yeah, well, it's exhausting, right? So the reason the internet took off as great as it did with human beings is because we love that little hit of dopamine, right? And that was once upon a time to reward us from hunting down an animal and bringing it back to the tribe. It's like, yeah, it feels good, right? That sense of newness that when you go out on a date for the first time with a new person, it's like, oh yeah, like dopamine spike. But then all those tabs I was talking about before, every single one of them is a little dopamine spike, and every single little like that you get or video that you watch in those tabs is another dopamine spike. And so by the time before you even started your day properly and gotten to work, you're already exhausted because your dopamine has been completely drained. That's a feel-good feeling, right? So it is actually quite obvious to me that the reason we're seeing higher levels of depression and anxiety and more mental health issues is because we're essentially just draining and messing with the chemicals in our brain that we're wired to work in a very specific way that's not accustomed to the modern day spoiling that we give it.
And I think also too, I would also hazard a guess that some of it is just diagnosis, like that. If you think of 30 years ago with what we knew, if someone was sad, it was like, well, go masturbate. Like that was the answer, right? Like, if women had postpartum depression, which is
that's right, hysteria.
Thing, yeah, it was like, well, here's some go masturbate, and here's some really hardcore drugs that we hope you survive.
Welcome to Freud,
right? But I do think that to a certain extent, some of the the increase. I'm not saying all of it. I do think that we live much more complicated lives, but I do think some of it is just that now we've become much better at recognizing it and diagnosing it.
For sure, but I think things were harder back then. So it's like if you were depressed or you were anxious, you would be forced to get over it pretty quickly because things were much more dire. It was just it was a bit more real back then, These days we've got a lot of luxuries, a lot of time, and I'm not knocking. I know family who have mental health issues and stuff, and I really feel for them. and I try to be there for them as much as possible. But at the same time, it's like I also can't help but to think back to how things once would have been, and how if they were in that same situation, it's the same situation they're in now. Back then, they wouldn't have survived, unless they were able to move past it somehow. Because it was like do or die back then. Yeah, we got very few things to worry about these days. In reality, a lot of there's a fear lies, your thoughts lie to you, and that's what consumes us on a daily basis. In fact, they did recent studies where 40% of our day is spent thinking about tasks that we're not even doing. How crazy is that? Like, imagine if we were able to take all of our mental power and focus it just on whatever one thing it is that we're doing for an extended period of time. I'm telling you, that will become a rarer and rarer thing that people are capable of.
Are you trying to say that like there's a way to eradicate ADHD? Because I don't think there is.
Well, the guy who diagnosed and come up with ADHD on his deathbed said that he didn't believe it was a real thing. Now, I'm not saying that whether or not it is, but
I'm gonna
I
tell
do
you,
think that
it's real. That shit is real.
I think it's too
real fucking
easily
real.
diagnosed these days. It's too easily diagnosed. I think some people have it for sure, and I've seen people. It's like, yeah, man, you got some ADHD happening.
Look here,
with you.
I got
Then
that
there's other
shiny squirrel syndrome, like the worst of them.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I said I got that shiny squirrel syndrome with the worst of them.
What's shiny squirrel syndrome?
That's where like I can like be in the middle of like talking to you about something, and a shiny squirrel runs through my fucking living room, and I'm like, "Ooh, shiny squirrel! Let's talk about that." Yeah, you see that shiny squirrel? You see what it did? Run up the wall.
Also, most of these
Like
things are on
I
a
get
spectrum.
distracted so easy, and like I get like it's part of like with these panels, right? Like we have these conversations, we start on a topic, and then like here we are on like the 10th topic that's then circled around back to the internet.
The question I would ask is, who's not easily distracted these days?
Want to ride bikes?
Welcome to the internet.
Very easily distracted. I hate it.
Like sometimes it can also be like it can be hyper focused as well. Like there is like with people that have ADHD, it also can be like they hyper focus on one thing, and then it means that they don't do other things. And but I think most of these situations are a spectrum. Like it is kind of a varied situation. And what's interesting is that you're seeing more and more adults be diagnosed with ADHD, that they've just been suffering it from their whole life, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, this is why I had such a hard time doing all these things growing up, because
I'm skeptical about that. I reckon you could train that out of them.
Now I will agree it's overly diagnosed.
Yeah.
But part of what they do is they give you a diagnosis so they can medicate you so they can make more money, and then they can give you a diagnosis for what the medication has caused.
Yeah, it's fucked
right?
up, man.
Like
So
it
they
just
can get their
keeps the
ballpoint pen
cycle
that has
going.
Ritalin printed on the side.
And you can't like train it out. Like the brain is diverse, right? And
I
so
think you
those
can.
like neurodivergences, you can't necessarily train it, but you can learn skills that you're not going to eradicate it, but you can learn skills that help you cope with it. You can learn ways to.
You can learn self-control things to help
Yeah.
you deal with it
Just
better.
drink lots of fucking caffeine, okay?
I mean, that's
Really?
basically
Is that
Ritalin.
Yeah,
right?
caffeine counteracts
It makes me
ADHD.
scattered.
Well, there's
No,
four
like someone
primary
who's
chemicals.
actually been diagnosed with ADHD can use caffeine, and it counteracts the chemicals in the brain that's causing all the like hyperactivity.
Yeah, speed zones me in good no matter what form it comes in. I
Well,
get
that's why they prescribe Adderall.
Mm-hmm.
Although I tried Adderall, and the one thing I didn't like about it was it gave me the wrong kind of focus. I couldn't be creative, but I could sit there and reorganize a shelf of random shit that had no need to be reorganized. It was fine already.
Now, someone who doesn't have ADHD who uses Adderall, it has the opposite effect. It's like speed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't care for it, but I know for some people it does them a world of good.
What kind of monster
Yeah,
organizes their battery drawer?
it's just one of those things.
Different things help different people's quality of life from day to day. And I personally try not to be super judgmental about it if it's not something that's in the max of immoral. You know, it's like, well, if weed helps you have a better quality of life day to day and you're not affecting anyone else with it negatively, or it's not ruining your life, then go ahead and smoke weed. Have at it. Who gives a shit?
Oh, yeah, for
But,
sure.
you know, there's other people where, like, I'll tell you this. I've known some people where I think a little bit of cocaine could help them in certain situations. And then there's other people I know that I'd say never, ever do it because it will turn you into a mess. You will be a sobbing mess and you will embarrass yourself and you'll regret it. So,
why is my panel in my chat?
What are you talking about?
The Squish Show and Michael T are in my chat.
I was just saying hi to the Squish Show. The Squish Show's not on your panel. What are you talking about?
No, the Squish isn't here. He's actually currently napping in the other. He's hanging out in the other room, chilling, watching.
Well,
the video.
apparently he's in the chat now. So.
Oh yeah, he does that.
Yes.
What? I don't know.
He's a big fan of the cocaine.
And I think Joe was just trying to get me to say cocaina.
Now, the big thing to remember too is like, okay, there's 4 main chemicals that like kind of work, you know, keep the brain going and how it reacts to things. But there's another 25 that also have effect on the brain, and every single one of those has a dial that goes from 0 to 100. And everybody's like got their shit wired differently. So like any one thing that's going to work on one person absolutely is not going to work on everybody who's got some sort of, you know, chemical swing going on.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like, man, I hope things like, I hope that the many things that people can be diagnosed with these days are legit. Otherwise, that freaking medical industry, pharmaceutical industry, are the smartest mofos ever. Imagine that. Having so typical marketing is basically saying, hey, I have something to solve your problem. But imagine if they're even smarter than that. They're smart enough to go, hey, maybe you've got this problem. Here's the problem we're inventing for you, and here's what we're going to sell you to fix it.
Well, that's why it's fairly immoral that we have drug, like we have medication commercials, right? Like we have full blown medication commercials that play on our TV sets, you know, like, and the fact that the pharmaceutical companies do that in the first place is it shouldn't be that way, right? Like it should be a trained professional that is helping you and working on as a team with you to come to what is going to be best for your health. But instead, you know, and I used to work, I worked in a doctor's office for years. And it would be amazing how people would come in and be like, oh, I saw this commercial and I have these symptoms. And the doctor would, you know, run labs and show them like, no, this is not what you have. You have this other thing. But they were still sad that they saw this commercial and that commercial told them what was ailing them.
That's the problem with WebMD.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well,
you know,
the doctors don't know either. Half of them are on WebMD these days as well. You see them, they look up Google. Oh, you might have this.
Type in my symptoms to WebMD, and I died a week ago.
Yeah, a good doctor is. I mean, in order to maintain your license, you have to have continuing education. So you have to go to conferences. You have to be reading and studying and maintaining what is current in the system. But, you know, not every doctor does that, and not every doctor, you know, I'm talking good doctors, and I luckily worked with a good doctor, but that's not typical, you know, that is not what the system is all the time, so it just really varies. But yeah, it is interesting, because that does happen quite a bit, where you have people that are like, I'm certain, and you're like, I don't know if you're really that certain, like, I don't know what where your degree is on this one, buddy.
Well, and that's a symptom also of like the distrust that has been shown by evidence being released about doctors actually having gotten kickbacks from drug companies and stuff like that. We hear about those stories, and we kind of lay that mistrust at the feet of all, you know, medical professions.
Yeah.
Well, I do it based on experience. Very rarely do I go go to the doctor and they solve my situation. Most of the time, I solve it for myself.
Yeah.
I figure it out. I'm like, well, if I put two and two together here, maybe this is probably it, and that doctor is full of shit. And man, they have told me the craziest shit sometimes. Like, oh, how they're going to make me immune to grass seeds and stuff to cure and it's like an 8-week program with 60 injections or something like that. I'm like, what the fuck? No way.
It's actually
How
a gene
about I'll
therapy
just go on this
program to do that.
autoimmune diet that I found on the internet, and it worked. It really did. It's crazy.
Sometimes less is more, with
Yeah, big time.
I think that's like it's hit or miss. Having a doctor that listens is the other aspect of this, because that's a thing that happens too, where
some of them are cool.
Where some don't listen. They don't listen to their patients. So you get people that that is a symptom of the insurance systems here. If you're talking Medicare, an average appointment time for a doctor seeing a Medicare patient is 7 minutes. That's how long they are supposed to be in and out of the room. So they're spending 7 minutes per patient, and that's why people get behind. That's why doctors get behind. But a lot of times, if doctors are sticking to that formula, right, they're coming in, they're talking to the patient for a minute or two. Okay, what's your problem? Let's go. And they're not actually listening. They're not actually trying to come to a conclusion. They're trying to get their paycheck.
Totally.
So it's just not an ideal situation, but
yeah, I think especially when it comes to mental health and stuff, because that's not always entirely physical. That can be tough, man. That's like psychology stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so there's can be so many opinions surrounding that too. So I'm just saying, I think that it's really good
Clayton,
to try and work past that as much as you can as well on your own. Because I feel like, man, back when we were hunter-gatherers, man, if you weren't wired right, or you didn't know how to live despite that, you would have been, your children's children wouldn't have been here, right? Like you would have been wiped out of existence, unfortunately. I feel so harsh sometimes I'm talking about this stuff, but I promise I do empathize with the people out there that are,
Well, we've seen what diet and exercise can do for people, and all going to the gym is a replacement for hard work that we used to have to do to survive in the old days. So there was probably less of it back when, probably because you just had to be physically active, and what you had to eat came from the land and was not corrupted garbage food and all kinds of various things. So now we've taken a lot of things, like, if a doctor said, well, you need to eat better and exercise, 90% of the patients are going to be like, no, just give me a pill. So they don't even think to mention it anymore. Like, my doctor tells me this kind of stuff, but that's because she's a straight up honest. She'll be like, yo, dude, you need to lose some weight.
Well, technically they're supposed to, because they break down that diagnosis code, right? So if someone is obese, that's why they'll discuss it, is that they're like, hey, by the way, you're obese. You should work on that, because then they can bill for that code. Like,
gotta be careful saying that these days, because some people think that being overweight is healthy. Actually,
a lot of times, so there are situations where, like, I have a friend that she had uterine cancer, but her doctor, it took a year to diagnose it. Because the doctor was like, well, you need to lose weight. These problems are all related to weight. And she's like, no, I'm legitimately sick. And the doctor was like, no, you're fine. It's not this thing, So, and she had a cantaloupe-sized tumor in her uterus.
That's messed up.
And it was because she was fat that the doctor just was like, no, you're probably just, if you lose weight, you're going to feel better. So you should go and lose weight. And she's like, I'm not even eating. Like, why? This doesn't make any sense. Asshole. But there are situations where, yes, like they should, because that is your overall health. So it's, I think it all comes, it's all relative, I guess. That's where
I got to roll, guys. It's been awesome. Loved hanging out with all of you. Always a pleasure. I'll catch you next time, okay?
Thanks for coming on, man.
Good hanging, man.
Later,
See you,
dude.
Clayton.
Bye-bye.
He's a good guy. Glad he's gone. We'll corrupt him. How you doing up there, Will?
Pretty shitty. I'm going to bed. So you all have a good evening. See yous.
It's good talking to you, Will.
I'm shitty too.
Yeah, and we need bed.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we've been going for 2 hours, so we can close this out, but I just want to, like, say something before I do close it out.
That we love Clayton. We hope we didn't run him off.
No. Well, yeah, that, but, so I've been dealing with something kind of lately with, like, family stuff. Like, my grandfather passed away on my birthday, so, like, I got to see my grandmother today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to tell everybody, like, if you love someone, go out there and tell them you love them. Like, you know, hug people. Like, don't be afraid to say what you think. I mean,
I love you, Clayton. I hope you come back.
Baby, come back.
You can blame it all on
No,
me.
I'm just saying, like, we live in such a world now where people, like, they don't talk and they get angry and they live in that anger. And, like, I want people to know it's okay. It's okay to, like, get upset and to let it go. You know? Like, I guess seeing my grandmother tonight just really opened up some stuff for me. And, like, I just want to tell everybody I love them right now. I'm just like, I love everybody, you know? Like, I just want to hug the world because we're not promised tomorrow. All we have is today. And people, once they're gone, they're gone. That's it. You know, you don't get to call them up and say, hey man, how's it going? So just spread the love. Stop spreading all the hate and anger.
Avoid regret.
Huh?
I said avoid regret.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
send love into the world, like, it may not be returned right away, but it does eventually always come back.
Oh, yeah. It always comes back tenfold, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, God made man, and Sam Colt made them equal. That's my favorite quote.
Yep.
Anyways, you guys have a good night. Spread the love, man. Spread the love. Go tell someone you love them if you hadn't talked to them in a while. Like, don't let that anger and the hate, like, keep you separated from people that you actually care about.
And try not to get too upset when you just get the thumbs up. Because sometimes it's just, hey man, 100% agree with you. Right on.
Sometimes it's, I need a ride.
Acknowledgement.
Anyways, you all have a good night in the chat. Thank y'all for hanging out. Woodrow, I did not call you out, man. Grimmer, thanks for coming by. Much love.
And Joe Ball just
Bye.
bailed on us before we went off the air.
All right, Michael, you sing us out.
Do it. I'm working on it. Dan, back me up. Where's your ukulele?